Breaking news, everybody. YouTube is going to buy Twitch. That's according to a rumor being reported by Variety.com, saying that sources close to the deal say a $1 billion cash offer has been made and has been accepted by Twitch, and that an announcement is imminent. Media outlets have been reaching out to both Twitch and YouTube, and both have declined to comment. And as we know from rumored news stories, when both parties decline to comment in any way, shape, or form, no denial, it's almost always true. Maybe not down to the letter, but some aspect of this deal is likely true. And I don't know if I'm ready to call this a doomsday scenario, but we are certainly looking through the looking glass on this. And it's sort of a scenario that even I wasn't expecting to happen at all, let alone this soon. I expected that maybe something far out someday Google might take a look more seriously at the game playing space, but not an all-out buyout of Twitch, which seems to not even jive with what they have demonstrated through the Content ID debacle of their perspective and approach to video game content streaming. Let's Play videos. The streaming, in their words, of other people's content, copywritten works that you have no right to make any money off of. And why would they be interested in this space if they have decided that there are copyright issues with video game content? Well, that is because, as we've seen demonstrated by YouTube, they do have an interest, a financial interest. What else would it be? It's not pride, even though we have seen YouTube, or Twitch has been getting more and more popular, and on YouTube, video game content is the fastest growing, and the largest YouTuber is a video game content streamer. But when it all comes down to is money, because they see an opportunity with publishers to make money off of video game content streaming. We have seen it demonstrated with Nintendo being the most infamous of them all, who's made an official statement saying that YouTube specifically approached them to say, would you like to make money off of your content on YouTube? We can flag it with Content ID, we can monetize it on your behalf, and you'll make more money off of your video games that you've created and that these other people, the culture surrounding it, has been producing video content over. You should be the one with the money in your pocket. This is YouTube doing this. This is their initiative. It's not, they've tried to make it look like they wash their hands of it, like we're just letting you guys sort it out. No, they have an active interest in this. And we've also seen it with their approach to Notch. Notch infamously or famously tweeted that he was approached by YouTube to make money off of all Minecraft streams, saying that they had a way, I'm kind of speculating here, but I'm assuming they said, hey, we have a way to identify all Minecraft streams, and you could make the money off of it, Notch. Mojang, you could have money in your pocket for every one of these streams that perhaps isn't monetized, or perhaps is monetized. You could take down their monetization and apply your own. I don't know the details, but one would assume that it was similar to how they approached Nintendo. In addition to that, Twitch has their own looking at, like with official publishing partners, they have their own, I guess, strategies in the works, already in execution, of how they're going to make money outside of the spectrum of streamer to stream service. They want to include the publisher in the mix, who is also one of their core advertising partners, and that doesn't usually happen with media where the core advertiser is also the content in question, especially when it comes to like review, where I guess that's always happened with movies and any media, really, entertainment space. But anyways, I won't get into that here. However, what we are seeing is a trend towards large companies legitimizing the space by bringing in those who, and I will admit fully, own a large piece of the content that is being streamed. It goes well beyond review. It gets into parody, but in some cases with some games, you're just straight up watching video games as though they were a film played out on the screen. And they've seen the opportunity with the huge rise, and oh, by the way, of course, I will acknowledge Major League Gaming as a separate issue. But anyways, they're seeing as this stuff rises, there's a huge opportunity to make more money at it with official partners, and I think that this deal, more than any other now, is evidence that this is what's going to happen. You're going to see YouTube make bigger deals with larger publishers, Ubisoft, EA, Nintendo already has in execution, to automatically, with apps built into the next generation consoles automatically monetize the streaming of their video games on YouTube. How that interacts with partners, people who are already making money off of YouTube, how that, if that will replace their monetization strategies, or if there will be some sort of commingling, we have yet to see. This also touches on another issue with Mario Kart, as we saw with a recent announcement. I didn't actually watch that whole stream yet. I wanted to leave that for a show and trailer, but I did hear the detail that you will be able to upload YouTube video clips from the new Mario Kart straight from the game onto YouTube, and that those will be automatically monetized by Nintendo, and Nintendo will make the cash from them. That is their prerogative. It is in their interest to sure make money off of their content. Is it in their interest to potentially stymie or pacify the growth of video game culture, because there is an entire business of video game producers and streamers that nurture the growth of that video game culture around their games? Do they want to discourage those people from making money off of the content they produce around their games from producing if they can't make money off of it? That's for them to decide, I suppose, because they have all the power. The ball is in their court because YouTube is in bed with them, not with the streamers. This all comes to another issue where I think that I'm not completely against video game publishers making money off of their video games. In part, I think that the video game producer should have a piece of it, and I think the publisher can have a piece of it too, and that it should be left up to the publisher how big of a slice they take, if any. And there are, I think, benefits to them not taking any slice at all, and I'll explain that as well. Right now, we already see in place on YouTube an ability for people to make music covers, to take a song that already exists by Lady Gaga or whoever, sing it on an acoustic guitar or on a friggin' hand kazoo or whatever. They can redo the song, publish it on YouTube, and they can monetize it. If it's identified by the Content ID system as being somebody else's work, like Lady Gaga's, it has ways. It's so advanced that it has ways to tell that this isn't just the song. This is maybe, and it will straight up ask you, is this a cover? And if you click that, you go through a process that allows you to share the revenue, to monetize the video and share the revenue with the original producer of the song. Almost like an automated method in which compilation albums or covers were actually done on albums in the past. This system is in place for music. It's possible, and possibly our savior in the video game space, if we can have publishers and streamers, and well, streamers have no part of the decision, YouTube to agree to put this into practice so that all streaming of all games in any way, shape, or form is completely legitimate and can be made money, and money can be made off of it from all aspects, and everybody's going to share in their portion. Why it might be in the publisher's interest not to take a split is that it will encourage more streamers to stream their game. And you know that I'm a proponent and an advocate. I am completely on the side that streaming games only helps the games, except for in some small instances in which games are streamed verbatim with no commentary and almost as though they were a film, straight from beginning to end on release day, so that you get the story and you don't ever have to pick up the game. It depends on the game. Some games are more vulnerable to it than others. Games that have less of transformative are less transformative. Ones that can be kind of played as a straight through story with little gamer input. I know that stuff like, The Walking Dead, I think, is more vulnerable to that, even though you can make many choices in it. You can watch a couple streams and see almost all the choices. However, on the other side, we've seen Telltale kind of embrace that entire thing, and it doesn't look like it's done very poorly for them, especially maybe because it's episodic content, meaning that if you see one episode, you might be willing to buy the season pass the next time around. In addition to that, I've always said that those who are watching the streams probably were never going to be a customer to begin with. The same issue applies to piracy, where not necessarily every torrent you see downloaded means a lost viewer that was a customer. They may have never been a customer and probably never would have been in the first place. I'm getting into things completely beyond that. Let me get back to what I said I would touch on again, and that's the MLG and the competitive gaming space, which has nothing to do with narrative content and everything to do with player input and everything to do with gaming culture. culture and the huge culture that surrounds it. This, I think, most importantly, out of almost everything, is where the real money is to be made, and we have entire organizations like MLG that have revolved around it, and they acknowledge that. Tournaments, huge cash prizes, and huge advertisers willing to get involved. We see Twitch streaming more than ESPN and WWE and a couple other organizations combined 2 months ago. These are being reported in Forbes. You'd be naive to think that major companies like YouTube and others aren't paying attention and aren't drooling with the prospect of making a lot of cash off of this. And it's funny because that big, piece of the pie, that huge competitive gaming market, has already branched out on their own and potentially will reject this. And it is probably the primary reason why YouTube is going to have to, if this is a thing, is going to have to be delicate with this, because they have the ability to go off and just create their own streaming services like MLG already has, and just stream on their own. They don't need Twitch or YouTube. Now, for the final implications, to wrap up what makes me so concerned about this, and that is because of competition and independence. And that is the fact that for me, for so long now, being an independent channel and through the whole Content ID debacle, feeling like a bag in the wind and a small ship tossed on the waves, that at any point our channel could be taken down on YouTube because they have no defense and they never plan to defend the fair use of content on YouTube, and why I have these pipe dream scenarios about a completely legitimized space where everybody shares a piece of the pie and that streaming is just completely allowed no matter what of video game content. It's because I've been regarding for so long now Twitch as the primary competition or alternative to YouTube if a complete doomsday scenario happens in which streamers are being taken down left and right, or if just in our own personal situation our channel is taken down because of some stupidity. Maybe we give a bad review to a game that decides to abuse the system and put copyright strikes against us for shitting on a game or something like that. That happens, and whether we will have the same resources or public opinion clout to reverse decisions like that, like say Total Biscuit does, we might not. We are not a huge channel, and because of that I've always seen Twitch as hopefully maybe one day getting into the archiving space. They already archive the videos, but and they really a long time ago played with the ability that anytime you ran a commercial during your live stream, the archived version would have those commercials embedded in the stream so that you could make money off of the archived version. Right now we hide our archived versions because we don't make money off of them because the ads don't stay on there. We would rather people watch them on YouTube so that we can pay our rent, so that we can continue this business that we spend 16 hours a day on, making costumes and going live and cultivating the community around. And I can't believe that I'm continuing to have to legitimize my desire to make money off of a business that I've dedicated my life to. I won't get into that, but it is true that people, there are those out there who think that this is completely illegitimate and that we should just be happy to stream the games as a hobby. Anyways, completely other topic. Let me get away from that. My point is, I regarded Twitch as an alternative to YouTube and potentially our savior because their entire business, they had no choice but to acknowledge fair use, unlike YouTube, who seems to just pretend that it doesn't really exist. They acknowledge it, but they don't want to get involved. Whereas Twitch has no choice but to get involved because the entire business model revolves around the streaming of other content created by a third party, which is the video game publishers and their paymasters, their advertisers. They had no choice but to make this work, and I was excited to see how they made it work over time. However, if YouTube comes in and takes over, who knows how that strategy, how that entire thing is going to play out. Possibly what they had in mind for themselves might end up being applied to YouTube. That could be a good thing. On the other side, it could be a very bad thing if the Content ID system and the deep pockets, the deep suable pockets of YouTube are being looked at by music producers whose music are in these games, by more nefarious publishers that might not be as proactive as, say, Ubisoft and Deep Silver, who embrace and allow streaming they might see those deep pockets over there. You know how sue happy America is, as we've seen between Viacom and YouTube, as we've seen between Apple and Google. Everybody likes to dip into their shareholders' treasure trove, into the war chest. And that's where the potential problem lies with commingling these two, where Twitch certainly was getting bigger and bigger all the time. It was nowhere near the size of YouTube and the suable pockets of YouTube. And that's why I see the opposite happening. Instead of Twitch's mentality and Twitch's, I guess, you know, their safe haven for streamers applying to YouTube, I see the opposite, where that sort of desolate landscape that YouTube has become of content ID run amok and lack of reason in the appeals process applying to almost any dispute that a content producer has for copyrighted content within a game, especially with the especially evil ones like Nintendo, who completely refuse to acknowledge fair use or embrace the video game culture that surrounds video game content producing. So I guess when it comes down to it, who knows what's going to happen? Is it even true? It doesn't negate any of what I just said. Those are all scenarios that I have painted in my mind before and I have spoken briefly about on the show, and now you have just heard at length. I think that it will take time, if this deal is going ahead, before we see what's going to happen. But it's funny because in a way I get excited about change, regardless of whether it might be positive or negative. There's the whole wait and see feeling that I have of like, could this maybe end up being better? But I can say to you that the more this happens, the more concerned I have with being an independent channel and being at the whims of the Content ID automated robotic service. The more that I think that it's possible that I need to look at an MCN, a multi-channel network, who will guarantee to protect us and give us safe haven from Content ID. Remember, managed channels. If it's guaranteed that you are a managed channel, you are immune from Content ID. The downside is to that is, you know, I don't want any obligations. I want to be able to stream what we want, what you want, when we want. On the other hand, Content ID has some automatic obligations that apply to us because we continue to stream Nintendo content regardless of our ability to monetize it. And I keep on telling you it's brought to you by the Turbo Club because our community has shown in force that they really want to see Nintendo games played by us. We want to play the Nintendo games. But I would be lying if I didn't look at... I have numbers in my head that would allow me to consider a multi-channel network, just because I am straight up afraid of the situation in which a channel like ours is just completely wiped off the face of YouTube because we rubbed too many companies the wrong way by streaming content and apparently stealing money out of their pocket by doing so. And that is why I look at things like the potential of completely legitimizing the space as potentially positive, but then, you know, if that doesn't happen, just one more even bigger company once again being in control of everything that we are able to produce. And then the other scenario that I keep on looking at is continuing to look at the possibility that maybe we go 100% independent one day, and maybe we can grow the Turbo Club to a point where they completely support us and we just create our own streaming service. And we've, as you've seen, experimented with it within the Turbo Club thanks to you know, techies on my team like Nulani and K-Shade looking at things to be able to just stream on our own. Maybe one day it will be just you guys who are supporting us completely, and we will stream whatever and say whatever we want, and it'll, you know, be a completely community-run show. And if companies have a problem with what they're streaming, they can send me a fucking legal notice right to my doorstep, and then we'll hash it out in the goddamn courts. I don't know. Nightmares, dreams, everything all comes together when you hear stuff like this. Once again, it's like a tiny ship tossed on the waves, and I really wonder how it's going to play out. Excitement and fear. As we approach our 100,000 subscriber, it seems just so apropos that we come to this impasse, or like crossroads, it feels. Thanks for watching, guys. Those were my thoughts on it, and I look forward to your comments. And maybe this could be a half-baked opinion because I literally just heard read it, and came right here to say it. And maybe I'll put some more things in perspective as I read comments and as I get to think about it some more. But for now, those are my first impressions and my off-the-cuff feelings. See you later. I love you. Goodbye.